I'd like to give each panel member 20 seconds each, starting from over there, Barry, and working down here finally to Ralph.
I think you are presupposing that one argument is moral and the other is not moral, and seeing you already know that, you're only talking about how to implement it. I don't already know that. In fact, I disagree with it. I think this is true of throughout the world. We've seen recent opinion polls that certainly the majority of people think the opposite of what you think. So we're not going to get there by saying, well, there's a bunch of us who think this, who should try to lobby the people to do what we think, and there's another bunch who don't think this, and they should lobby the people and see what they can, and may the best man win. Not really a solution.
I think that the issue for me is simply that the jury's out in terms of the climate changes caused by humans, and I think that particularly when I have found and documented evidence of UN IPCC and others exaggerating about it, making misleading claims, things that are demonstrably wrong, is supposedly gold standard science, then we have a murky mess. We need to get clean data, we need to get real facts, we need to find out what degree humans are implementing and impacting the planet. Then we'll know what the moral imperative might be. If global warming is happening because of humans, we need to do something. If it's not happening because of humans, then nothing we do is going to change it.
Jonathan.
Well, I think this is fundamentally a moral issue. The former Prime Minister of Australia, Kevin Rudd, said this is the greatest moral issue of the 21st century, and he is no longer Prime Minister, partly because he failed to follow through on his beliefs. And sadly, this is happening internationally. Fundamentally, as I've tried to say before, I think the moral issue here, it can be thought of in terms of risk management. We're faced with a body of evidence that says we face this kind of risk if we fail to act, and if we don't, and other people who say, no, there's nothing much to worry about. If these people are right and we fail to act, we potentially commit future generations to a much more miserable life than we've enjoyed. If we take action, on the other hand, we may cause ourselves certain costs that might, in the future, prove to have been unnecessary. But I would much rather do that than have it on my conscience that we were warned, we failed to take those warnings, and we committed future generations and countless species to a miserable existence.
James.
Well, going back to the analogy I used in my talk, I think that picture on the jigsaw puzzle is already clear enough to tell us that there's an overwhelming argument for doing something, much along the lines Jonathan said. There are conflicting pieces of information, but the evidence overall is very clear. I think the Garnaut Review in Australia, one of the conclusions of that, the final chapter, Fateful Decisions, said that failure to act on this problem, I think words were something like, would cause consequences that would haunt humanity until for the rest of time. So that's fairly strong language. And I would love to think that we could just appeal to people's better nature, like you're suggesting, and do what's morally right. But as Jonathan said in his talk, it seems to be more that appealing to people's wallets is what really works. So I think, yes, we should be getting out there and talking to people and appealing to them at a moral level, but we also have to have legislation and economic instruments to help people move in the right direction.
And finally, Ralph.
Regards specifically China and Brazil, as you mentioned as examples here. New Zealand and others have to get our house in order first before we can tell the Chinese not to burn their coal or the Brazilians not to cut down their forests. Both of those governments are well aware of climate change. They're at all the negotiation tables. They're being hugely positive. They're developing legislation, a renewable energy law in China for 10% of their electricity within the next 10 years. They're far more advanced than the United States in that regard, and in terms of New Zealand's policies as well. And so we have to help and advise and provide leapfrog technologies so they don't go down the same paths that we've gone down. Now we know that they were the wrong paths. And so there is a moral dilemma there, but we've got to lead by example.